Hi everybody, I'm Janet Fletcher. I am the publisher of a cheese blog called Planet Cheese and a frequent teacher about cheese and writer about cheese. If you don't already get Planet Cheese, I hope you'll go to my website janetfletcher.com and sign up. It's a really quick read that comes in your inbox every week and just a fun way to keep learning about cheese every week. I'm also a volunteer with a grassroots group called Victory Cheese, made up primarily of people who are in the cheese business or affiliated with the cheese business in some way in the U.S. And we're very concerned about what's been happening during the pandemic to our dairy farms and our cheesemakers. They're really struggling because they've lost a lot of restaurant business and food service business, and these days when people go to the grocery store to buy cheese, they tend to buy something big that's going to last a long time. So a lot of our cheesemakers are really having a hard time. Cheese is backing up, and you can't just stop because cows and goats and sheep have to be milked, and you have to keep taking the milk and making cheese. So Victory Cheese is a way of supporting them and bringing more attention to their plight and helping some of these cheeses go from the farm to your table. So part of the effort is the creation of Victory Cheese boxes that put some of these beautiful American cheeses together for you. I've created a dozen of these Victory Cheese boxes for iGourmet, the online merchant. You purchased one. You purchased the cheese trio for sparkling wine. Thank you. And I just thought it would be fun to go through these, the cheeses that you purchased before you taste them so that you have a sense of the story behind them, the people behind them, and what you're about to taste. So I'm here in my kitchen in Napa Valley, California, and we will get started and go through these cheeses. Wow, we have only 3 cheeses, but they're quite different. A cow's milk cheese, 2 cow's milk and a goat's milk cheese. They are so different. One is very young and rich and creamy, and the other 2 are very aged and hard. And I think this just proves my point that sparkling wine can go across a lot of different styles of cheese, whether you're drinking cava or prosecco or sparkling wine or a beautiful champagne from France. I think that sparkling wine goes with more different types of cheese than any other kind of wine. So it's a great wine to take to open when you've got a lot of different kinds of cheese on your board, as we do today. So I really love sparkling wine with very creamy cheeses, like triple cream cheeses, because the bubbles in the sparkling wine really contrast with that luscious mouthfeel of a triple cream cheese. So that's what we're going to start with, a triple cream cheese from Indiana, made in Indianapolis by a Dutch cheesemaker who his name is Fons Smits. He's been involved in a lot of creameries over the years, including Cowgirl Creamery, which you've probably heard of. But this is a creamery, this is from a creamery called Tulip Tree that he started with a business partner about in 2014, I believe. And Trillium, which this cheese is their triple cream cheese. And they buy the milk for it. They don't have their own animals. And they wanted to make at Tulip Tree, they wanted to make cheeses that were inspired by Europe but had a kind of American quirkiness to them. So this cheese is roughly like a brie or a camembert, but it's got the triple cream qualities. It's got extra cream in it, or cream added to it. So it is about 70 to 75% butterfat, and it is made in a square shape, whereas a brie or camembert would be round. And he just did that because he wanted it to stand out a little bit in the cheese case and not look like every other little round bloomy rind cheese. So this is what we call a bloomy rind. It's got this bloom of mold on the outside. Ooh, it's just super ripe. And I love that. I could tell it was because it was squishy. When I probe it, it's really soft. These kinds of cheeses start out firm and then they get softer. Smells like mushrooms and a little bit like yeast, and I know it's going to be very buttery. The cheesemaker himself says this is a cheese where you don't want to worry about the calories. This is a cheese that's all about indulgence and just that lush, buttery, silky texture. So it really does need It needs something to spread it on. You need a nice piece of baguette to spread this beautiful cheese on. But look at that beautiful texture. And I just get this wonderful white mushroom and yeast note, and it's going to be super rich. So now we're going to, and only maybe about 4 weeks old, I would say, 4 to 5 weeks old, at least the creamery when it's 16 days old. But this is, I would say, maybe a 6-week-old piece. And it's not going to go too much longer, maybe another week or two. So our next cheese is from California, from a creamery called Valley Ford Cheese. And this is their Estero Gold Reserve. So you are getting their top of the line. You're getting the cheese that's been aged longer than just the regular Estero Gold. This has been aged for, I think, 16 to 18 months. So that's why it's really hard. And like a Parmigiano Reggiano, look at that gorgeous color. This is from Jersey cows. It's raw milk, and it's farmstead. They have their own animals. And they are organics. The cows are outside as much as they can be. So this is about as pure and traditional as cheese making gets. This is from a family, a mother and her sons operate it, or now one son. The other son has moved on to his own farm. But she was a PE teacher, and Karen Bianchi Moretta, who wanted to come back to her family's farm. That family had been on this farm in West Marin, or is that Sonoma County? I think it's Sonoma County, actually, in California. They had been on that farm for several generations, and she wanted to come back, and she was trying to think of what she could do to contribute to this dairy farm where they were just selling fluid milk. And so she got the idea to transform some of that milk into cheese and start a cheese operation on the dairy. Self-taught, started in her home kitchen. She has since sent one son to college to study dairy science, and the other studied animal husbandry, and so they are helping to keep the farm going along with her. So gorgeous color that comes from the pastured animals. And I'm going to use this hard knife. This is what's called a Parmigiano Reggiano knife. You can see it's got kind of a heart-shaped blade. It's not super sharp, and we're just going to cut off little chunks. You could slice it, but I love the way it breaks off into chunks, and it's just very, very nutty. It's going to be firm on the palate, a little granular, but you're going to get a lot of fruit and roasted nuts from this cheese. It's, I think, one of the most exciting cheeses from California these days, and I was really excited when Karen Bianchi Moretta started aging out her Estero Gold extra time and giving us the Estero Gold Reserve. Our last cheese is from Colorado, and it's from a creamery called Haystack Mountain. And this is their Gold Hill, fairly new cheese for them. I think they've only been making it 2 or 3 years, and it look at that color. It looks like caramel, and it's going to smell like caramel. This is aged about they say a minimum of 6 months, but I can tell this is aged longer than that. This feels like a year-old piece of cheese, and it's going to be like candy. I love a couple of things about this story. First, about this cheese. The cheesemaker, who's been the cheesemaker, I think, since the start, is a woman named Jackie Chang, and she is from Taiwan. So she did not grow up with cheese, really. She moved to Colorado as an adult and visited Haystack Mountain, which was a goat farm at the time, and fell in love with the goats. And so she wanted to work on that farm, and she learned to make cheese, and she's been the cheesemaker since. And the second thing I really admire about this creamery is that they get their milk from the Colorado Correctional Institute, where it's a prison that has its own goat farm, and the inmates learn dairying skills so that when they leave prison, they have a marketable skill. And this was an idea that Haystack Mountain dreamed up with the Colorado Correctional Institute. So that's where they get a lot of their milk. And again, I'm going to use this hard, my Parm knife. Oh, look at that. It breaks like a Parmigiano Reggiano, very granular. And it just is, the aroma is astonishing. It just is deep and toasty and nutty. It smells like deeply roasted nuts and butterscotch and caramel. I know you're going to love this, and you're going to really enjoy how beautifully it pairs with sparkling wine. So thank you so much for supporting Victory Cheese. I hope you'll go on the iGourmet website and look at the 11 other collections, Victory Cheese boxes that I curated for them, because they're all different themes, all different cheeses, and I think you're going to enjoy some of those as well. Thank you.